Hello there, Ray here, and behind me is an upgraded version of our Dragon Egg Dropper Bedrock Breaking Flying Machine. This allows you to break Bedrock in versions 1.9 through 1.12.2. This is what we're currently using on the ProtoTech server to go ahead and to clear out these massive perimeters where we're going to come in and place in some farms prior to upgrading to 1.13. Now if you haven't seen the previous video that Pingu and I did on this flying machine, I'll link it down in the description, but today I'm going to go over the changes that we made to this one. These include features to be able to avoid autosaves, as well as prevent snow layers and lightning from updating it. And we also came in and changed some of the wiring so that it's not so complex, and we also put in a safety device to prevent it from breaking if you happen to miss any dragon eggs while placing them. So today I'll be going over all these features and also explaining how to run this flying machine so you can break your bedrock in your very own world prior to updating to 1.13. The main concept with this flying machine is that it allows the dragon eggs to be dropped in lazy processing chunks. And when this happens, it will cause the bedrock to be replaced with dragon eggs. And this can be used to break bedrock in survival prior to 1.13. Pingu and I designed this flying machine to be able to break large masses of bedrock all at once, while keeping the slimestone to a minimal. So the way this works is the player will be riding a flying machine, he'll come in front of here, and he'll place down all the dragon eggs across the entire thing. Then he'll move over and then he'll be pulled away, all while being able to be AFK. Once he gets back there, the eggs will automatically be dropped and the player comes back and repeats the process. This is a simplified explanation of how this works. If you want to see the full explanation, check out the original video. Now, one of the problems that we had with the prior design is that we had two lazy processing chunks detectors. This is the one that Smokey designed up here, and we made it flyable so that we can fly it through a flying machine. And we had one of these originally here, as well as we had one down there. And the problem is that one could enter a different chunk than the other, and this wasn't always consistent. Although it worked for the majority of the time, it was also kind of clumsy having one of these huge systems down there. So what we did is we just have a central brain. This is kind of the brain of the machine, and it took to a counter which can count. And what it does is after it counts up so much, it will relay its information downwards. And that's what this part here does. This cable here was designed by Saniki. He helped with this part and being able to send information downwards while also being able to have it moved. So this thing will be able to move back and forth, and this will be able to send information down to this contraption down here. And down here we have some special logic, which will allow it to be able to send updates to this observer here, but only when the pistons are pushing that direction. I'm going to run the flying machine to illustrate some of the changes that we made. It's a lot easier to see kind of what's going on through different stages as the player is moving throughout these stages. So the way the machine works is the player would AFK inside a minecart, and you'd be holding down right click, and while AFKing you just remove that sign. Then you start them off by just updating this piston here, and then when the player leaves the area, it's going to turn on this lazy processing chunk detector. This one that was designed by Smoko. We made it movable so we can fly this machine. Everything on this machine moves forward except for this docking bay, which will give the player dragon eggs, and will refill the stack so you can place down more dragon eggs. Now, the lazy processing chunk will detect when this is in a lazy chunk, and it'll be able to drop the eggs, which will allow it to break the bedrock down below. And the player is moving away from the area, so eventually it's going to turn it into a lazy processing chunk, and then the machine will automatically drop the eggs. The time that the player makes to do an entire cycle, going all the way back and then forward and placing eggs and coming back, is exactly synced up with the autosave. This means that if you return this machine on without an autosave occurring, then once the machine has started up, it would never allow it so that the player would be in a position where autosave would occur and would break the flying machine over there. So when it gets back here, there's a bumping machine which will just move that machine back the other direction, and it'll also count up to 4 and move itself forward 1, because every time it counts to 4, it's going to move the contraption over there forward 1 as well, so they keep the exact same distance. This way the player is always making the exact distance between the two flying machines and will keep the exact timing as well. Now there is a rare case that the machine can get stuck when an autosave would occur, and this is only when the player has moved the machine in a very specific location. And this can also be avoided if you have a permanent loading going on. So the chunks where the machine is dropping the eggs are not able to unload, because there is a problem where the game can unload these chunks and the pistons can forget to push, and then when it's reloaded they won't push properly and it'll leave part of the segment behind. This won't completely break the machine, but it'll leave one segment out, but this can completely be avoided by using the permanent loading to avoid these chunks from completely unloading during that specific time. Now when the player comes back into location, he's going to activate this device here, and this is the only stationary device, which allows the eggs to be placed into the player's first hand, as well as allows him to also place some of the eggs inside of his inventory, because this is important for him to be able to make the entire distance while just holding some eggs. Now, as the player goes through, he's going to place down the eggs. My player is currently not going to do that. But what also happens is he goes over top of this device here, which is the device that activates the very bottom piece. And this is why we're using this cable to send information downwards. As the cable moves in that direction, it's going to update these pistons, which are going to update this observer, which are going to send off this bottom fly machine, which is the fly machine that's going to break the eggs. Because the eggs need to be removed before more eggs can be placed on top. Otherwise, the eggs will just replace the current eggs instead of replacing the bedrock like we wanted it to do. When the fly machine gets to end here, it's going to bounce off of these bumpers. This one's going to bounce off this bumper, and this one bounced off this bumper down here, and then they both return to the other side. Now the bumper on top is special because we changed the bumper to make it so that it would be game tick perfect, so the player would be able to make a whole cycle that is exactly synced up with the autosave. But you can also use the simplified bumper if you're just going to use the permanent loading to prevent this from unloading. I'm also using a TPS for it, which example built up and modded the client so that I am able to speed up time so it goes a little faster. But as you can see, the device that crushes the eggs will come back into the holding bay, and it'll also come past this machine here, which what it does is it is a safety device. So essentially what's going on here is this first device here, piston, when the fly machine comes in contact with it, it will try to pull this segment forward, but it will not be able to because there's too many blocks on it. So only once has it came to this piece here and pulled this segment forward. And then when the machine comes back, it'll be able to pull the second segment forward. And this is a safety device because if the machine happens to not return, then the very top piece will not be able to move forward. Because the way that it's set up, there is no information coming from this device going up to the brains, which is that machine at the very top. So the way that we send information upwards is by using this device here. So if this machine would happen to come across and the player missed a dragon egg on the flying machine there, and it happened to leave a bedrock piece here, then the flying machine would crash into it and would stop. So with the safety device here, if it would fail, what it does, it goes over here and essentially just puts a block in front of this machine so it's not able to move forward. If it did fail, it would just stop right here, and then you could just come and remove the bedrock and start it back up again. And this safety device was designed and built up by 0x, and it made it a lot nicer. So if it did happen to fail, the machine didn't just keep on moving forward and ignored the bottom piece there. Now after it does this 4 different times, then it's going to do something special, which is the device that will remove the layers of snow. So let me fast forward it and make it go through the last 3 layers. So when the machine is done breaking the bedrock in one row, it's going to come through and break the last eggs are here, and then it's going to move itself forward. And it's also going to activate this machine here. So as that fly machine is moving forward, I slow down the game, and you'll be able to see this cable sending information downwards. It's kind of interesting how this cable is able to send information down as well as move itself forward 1 meter whenever the entire machine moves forward. You can see each segment is moving over, and it's updating the next one, and it's slowly going to come down here, and this is going to update this pistons down here. And that's going to send a pulse to that, which is going to activate this machine. It's also going to activate this machine over here from the side. And this machine is doing that egg crushing as you've seen before, but this machine over here is coming through and destroying any snow layers that are in this row. Now typically if it would destroy the snow layers, it could just rain and this would cause snow to come down and add more snow layers. But the thing is that this machine where it's breaking the snow layers is now protected by the machine above it. So all these blocks here are preventing any snow layers from coming down here and landing again on top of the top block of this bedrock. This means that once we fly the flying machine over top, no more snow layers should come here, and it should be safe for us to drop more eggs on top of it. Now when it gets to the far end here, it's going to be able to move this contraption forward, and it's also going to move the new fly machine that we added onto it. So we just added extension onto the previous machine, and you can see it's going to update it and also send this machine back too. So just a really small extension here, just some of these blocks here, as well as some blocks over here, and also a piston back here. It also completely lines up with the edge of the perimeter, and as the machine was coming in, it also broke any snow layers that were right in this area here. So if there was bedrock right here, it also had a piston that was pushing this direction and breaking those snail layers. And it also doesn't have any sticky pistons that are rubbing up against the edge. Now the machines will both make their way back. There's quite a few ghost blocks which are being left behind. But as you can see, now there is no more snow layers in the top bedrock block of this row right here. Nikki helped me design up the snow removing flying machine as well as both of the bumpers. Here you can see one of the bumpers here. As it comes in, it's going to stop itself by having these pistons extend, and it won't be able to push past this point here. And now it's all ready, waiting to be able to go into the next row. You can see this machine move forward as well, and now it can be able to break any eggs that come in this row right here. And you also notice that there is a gap between this flying machine and this flying machine, and the same goes for that end over there. This way the eggs can be able to fall from down there all the way down to here without falling on top of any of the limestone. So getting the timings of both these machines was kind of difficult, trying to get the machines so that they would be able to fly from one end to the other end without being unloaded, meaning that we had to fly these flying machines the same time we fly the player through the area, otherwise they might unload in an improper time. And we also had to keep this distance maintained so that dragon eggs could always drop in between the two contraptions. So the device that drops the eggs, we place it very close to where the flying machine is going to start. Without having to move the station, you're able to remove bedrock in a 21 by 21 chunk area without any problems. And this is mostly because of the despawn time that the items would have, because the items are sitting on the player as they're flying through the flying machine. If this massive flying machine here goes too far away for when the eggs are dropped, then they're going to go past the 5-minute despawn timer and they're going to despawn on the player and the player won't be able to place them down. But this means that you're able to do that 21 by 21 chunk area, which is larger than most perimeters need to be able to get the maximum spawning. And this makes it really nice, such as in our cat perimeter as well as our cold perimeter. We can just build up one of these machines as well as just one of these dragon egg resupplying machines to resupply the player. In a larger perimeter like this one, we had to build up quite a few of these machines to make it reach across the entire thing. Now, depending on how wide your perimeter is, you're going to have to modify how many eggs are dropped to the player, because you want to have the player empty by the time he reaches the far end. So this perimeter here, I believe, is 19 chunks wide. And so the way we do that is we can modify that by changing the length of this. If your perimeter is wider, then you want the clock that will dispense eggs to be on longer. So with a longer perimeter, all you do have to increase this distance between these 2 points, which this is like the turn on point and this is like the turn off point for the clock over here. Or you can also come in here and just add some repeaters. That's what we did in the cold perimeter to make the timings correct. So when the player gets to the far end of the machine, I even added some extra blocks so that the player can place eggs beyond the point. We're only breaking the bedrock currently to this point right here. But as you can see, I extended it just so the player would use up all his eggs. So the player's going to place in some extra eggs along here, and that will use up all his eggs. So when he goes back, he won't have any eggs in his hand. So you see that it will drop some extra eggs. But if you don't want to do that, you can always change that up. The reason why I want to get rid of all the eggs is that when the player comes all the way back to the beginning over here, the game will sometimes place in ghost blocks right around in this area here. And then if the player clicks on the ghost blocks with a dragon egg, it's going to replace that ghost block with the dragon egg. And then the dragon egg will be clicked on by the player, and then it will teleport somewhere in this area. And this is a problem because the dragon eggs could possibly teleport over here and land on top of one of these bedrock blocks here. And if there's an egg occupying the bedrock block, then we're not able to drop any eggs on top of it. And then this machine here isn't able to crush that dragon egg. Now this isn't a problem if you add in the newest attachment, which is this attachment here. And this is the attachment that we designed for cold perimeters. So in a cold perimeter, what will happen is that snow layers will land on top of it. And when the eggs will drop, they will land here. And when they land here, they will not destroy the bedrock. Instead, they'll just stay there. This will cause the same problem where when we drop more dragon eggs on top, the machine is not able to break these dragon eggs, and therefore this big row of bedrock will be left behind without being removed, and then the machine will crash into it, and that will prevent it from moving forward. The dragon egg resupplying system was designed up by Nikki, and then we added in on top of this a shulker box unloading system so that we can place in a bunch of shulker boxes full of dragon eggs here. And you can get large amounts of dragon eggs by using my dragon egg generator, which produces tons of dragon eggs, and then you can just have them placed into the system so they automatically unload, and then they are sent down here and they fill up these chests, and then they'll get dropped to the player when it's needed. Now we figure it takes over 250 shulker boxes full of dragon eggs to do a decent sized perimeter, about 21 by 21 chunks wide. So the way that I stopped the flying machine, as well as the big dragon egg dropping flying machine, is that after the player went ahead and went across this whole thing and placed in all the eggs, and then came back to this location here, I just placed in an immovable block right here, and this will stop the flying machine right here. You don't want it to go any farther this direction, otherwise it will power this here, which will go over here and unlock the lazy processing chunk detector. So currently it's locked. This means that you can leave the area with your player and unload it, and it won't be able to move forward on its own. And the goal in ProtoTech is to go ahead and put in some of these large perimeters, one for every different type of biome that there is in the game. That way, if we ever need to, we can always come back to these things and place in farms if we want to. This way, in future versions, we're able to have a nice area to build in any new type of farm that we come up with, without having to worry about trying to break large amounts of bedrock, since in 1.13 they removed this type of bedrock breaking from the game. And as they continue to change the way that mobs spawn, you never know. Sometimes it might be useful to have a perimeter where there is no blocks, and sometimes it may not be. But at least we'll always have this area to place in farms as we need, and we can always come in and remove old farms and place in new farms for future project, as ProTech is a server that never resets, so we're always looking and thinking about the future, and in the long run it's going to be worth it for us to take the time to break all this bedrock. I provided a world download to this world in the description. This allows you to be able to see exactly how to build up the flying machine, as well as where we have everything set up and the dimensions and everything. Now the way that we got this one set up is with a render distance of 12. So this means that the player with the render distance 12 has to go at least 12 chunks away from that flying machine for it to be able to go into lazy processing chunks. Render distance 12 is probably the most common render distance for servers, as it is high enough so that mobs will be able to despawn around the edges of the player and won't get stuck in lazy processing chunks, which is the main concern about most servers not being able to get hostile mobs to spawn in the world consistently. So at the lower render distance, it should still be able to work with this distance, but if you go with a higher render distance, you'll have to move that flying machine back there even further back. Now this entire flying machine is quite complicated, as it relies on a bunch of different types of mechanics in the game. But essentially what you need to know about this kind of stuff is that it consists of a bunch of smaller types of really simple devices and machines, and all these small devices are just being put together to make something that it looks really massive and complex. But an easy way to look at something like this and not be afraid of it is to just look at the small parts and kind of see, just like here, there's some really simple wiring, which is just some pistons which are pulling some segments, which have another piston which are pulling another segment, and etc. And you can kind of look at individual parts in here. You can see like a small flying machine here, and you can see little pieces that kind of push each other and stuff like that. And that way it doesn't look too complicated. If you'd like to see us actually designing up these type of flying machines, as well as the thought process that goes behind building something this complicated, I highly recommend checking out our live streams, which we do live stream at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday and Saturday. And in tonight's live stream, we're going to go ahead and add in the snow laying destroying flying machine onto our flying machine that we built up at the cold perimeter. And we're going to see if we can get this thing running so that we can destroy all of the bedrock at our cold perimeter, getting ready for all the farms that we're going to build there. So if you haven't already, be sure to go ahead and follow me on Twitch. I'll put the link down in the description. I'd like to thank you guys for watching, as well as Pingu, ZeroX, and Saniki for helping me design this flying machine up, and you can find their YouTube channels down in the description. If you did find this video interesting, go ahead and hit that like button, and share this video with others. If you'd like to see other crazy slimestone contraptions that are for survival, go ahead and subscribe and hit that bell button to get notifications of when new videos are available. And if you still have questions about this flying machine after watching the previous video as well as this one, ask it down in the comments and I'll try to answer it. Bye-bye!